What if it were possible to never lose your calm again, no matter what others say or do? A place where criticism, offenses, and provocations slide off you like water off an immovable rock. It seems unattainable, doesn't it? But this is precisely what the Stoics trained for. While others reacted with anger, they chose silence. While the pride of others ignited disputes, they responded with indifference, not because they were cold, but because they had decided not to give their peace away to others. Today, you are going to learn how to do the same and free yourself from the habit of getting angry with others. These are 12 Stoic lessons that can forever change the way you see human relationships. If you apply them, you will understand that no one deserves the power to disturb your mood because your mind is yours, not theirs. Lesson 1. Understand that it's not personal. Even if it seems like it, even if it hurts, even if the impulse tells you otherwise. What others do rarely has to do with you. Criticism, coldness, indifference, aggression, or even betrayal are almost always reflections of the other person's internal chaos, not objective judgments of your worth. But we fall into the trap of assuming everything belongs to us. That if someone responds harshly, it's because we failed. That if they ignore us, we are not enough. That if they attack us, we must defend ourselves. This is how we react from a wounded ego, not from understanding. When you understand that each person acts from their own history, their own pain, their own wounds and ignorance, something inside you is liberated. You stop carrying others' faults, you stop reacting to everything, and you begin to observe with more clarity. Think about that person who always responds to you with harshness. Are they really doing it because you deserve it? Or is it because they live trapped in their own discomfort? Because they haven't learned to manage their emotions? Because their level of consciousness doesn't yet allow them to act with compassion? The insult they hurl isn't about you, it's about what they carry inside. Their words are an echo of their internal world, not a truth about yours. Marcus Aurelius understood this. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. That wisdom begins when you stop taking things personally. We have been taught to react, to defend our name, to protect our image. But often, this need to protect ourselves is just a reaction to fear. Fear that what they say is true. But what someone else says cannot affect you if you don't let it in. If someone throws a stone and you decide not to pick it up, it won't harm you. The same is true for words, gestures, and attitudes. Epictetus said that it is not things that disturb us, but our opinion of things. If someone ignores you, that is just a fact. But if you interpret that indifference to mean you are worthless, then you suffer, not because of the fact itself, but because of your judgment about it. Understanding this doesn't make you indifferent, it makes you free. It's not about justifying others' behavior, but about understanding its origin so you don't carry it as if it were your responsibility. A stranger on the street insults you. Did it change your life? Does it change who you are? No. But if you take it personally, you allow that moment to steal your peace. Is it worth giving your serenity to anyone having a bad day? Many conflicts are born because we identify with what we are not. We believe we are our labels, our opinions, our achievements, and when any of that is threatened, we explode. But you are much more than someone else's opinion. When you stop interpreting the actions of others as personal attacks, conflicts lose their power. You no longer get hooked. You no longer react. You no longer turn every friction into a war. You simply understand that everyone lives from their own level of consciousness, and that allows you to choose peace over resentment. Perhaps the person who hurt you was raised among shouts. Perhaps they never knew another way to communicate. It is not your job to solve their issues, but it is your job not to make them part of your own identity. Seneca said that the wise man is not moved by the opinions of the ignorant, not out of contempt, but out of clarity. The next time you feel a wound caused by another, stop. Ask yourself, does this truly speak about me or about them? If you look closely, you will discover that in most cases, it's not personal. It never was. And by understanding that, you can let it go. You don't need to react or prove anything, or be understood. Your peace does not depend on how others act, but on how you choose to interpret their actions. Lesson 2. Anticipate human error. Not because you are a pessimist, but because you are aware. Because you understand that imperfection is not the exception, but the rule. We are surrounded by human beings who, just like you, make mistakes, get distracted, and have bad days. Yet, we insist on living with the expectation that everything will work perfectly, an illusion that sets us up for frustration. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself every morning that he would meet selfish, ungrateful, or unreasonable people, not to embitter his day, but to prepare himself so that when it happened, he would not be surprised, because what is anticipated does not wound as deeply. When you accept that the mistakes of others are part of the journey, you stop reacting with anger and start responding with mastery. Expecting constant correctness from others is a sure recipe for frustration. The friend who is late, the colleague who forgets their part, the driver who cuts you off. We get upset as if it were unexpected, but it's not. It's human. Life does not revolve around your expectations. Epictetus told us that what disturbs us are not events, but our beliefs about them. If you believe others should act as you would, you will live disappointed. If you accept that imperfection is part of the natural order, you can navigate your days with serenity. Anticipating the bad is not being negative, it's an act of wisdom. It's not about expecting the worst with bitterness, but about ceasing to expect the ideal with naivety. If you know mistakes are a part of life, you can build your fortress to face them. Think of how many times your day has been ruined by a simple mistake from someone else. Was it really so serious, or was it your expectation of perfection that created the unease? When you understand that most people are doing the best they can with the level of awareness they have, you stop personalizing every failure. The next time someone makes a mistake with you, breathe. Remember that you too have failed, forgotten, and hurt unintentionally. If you can give yourself that margin, you can also give it to others. In that space of tolerance, conflict loses its power. Anticipation doesn't eliminate errors, but it reduces their power over you. From that inner preparation, you can respond with more wisdom. You can choose not to shout, not to accuse, not to judge. You can act from awareness, not from impulse. Lesson 3. Observe your emotions before acting. That small moment between the stimulus and your response is where your freedom is born. There, you can choose whether to be swept away by impulse or to maintain control. Most people live on autopilot. They feel something, and they react. A harsh word is enough to set them off, but we are not slaves to our emotions unless we decide to be. Every impulsive reaction is an unrecognized weakness. Before we can interpret with wisdom, we need to observe what we feel. Instead of acting instantly, breathe, pause, and gain perspective. Whoever acts without seeing what they feel becomes a prisoner of their emotional state. Think about the last time you got angry. What would have happened if you had taken a deep breath before responding? If you had given yourself 3 seconds to observe the anger as if it weren't yours? That small pause changes everything. It interrupts the pattern. It reminds you that you are not your anger, your frustration, or your anxiety. You are the one who sees them. You are the one who can decide whether to act or let it pass. Impulses want to dominate you. They tell you, shout, respond, attack, flee. But you can do something different. You can stop and say, not now, not like this, not from a place of rage. And in doing so, you gain power over yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul is strengthened when it acts in accordance with reason, not emotion. And the only way to act from reason is to wait long enough for the emotion to reveal itself, calm down, and be understood. When you detect anger at its birth, you have the chance not to feed it. Everything you don't feed grows weaker. And every time you choose not to respond impulsively, you are training your mind to be stronger. This doesn't mean suppressing what you feel. It means acknowledging it without letting it control you. You can feel anger, but you don't need to turn it into an attack. You can be upset, but still respond with respect. Firmness is not synonymous with aggression. The conscious pause is your shield. It reminds you that your peace matters more than this provocation. The next time you feel anger rising in your chest, stop, observe. Don't become that emotion. See it as a cloud passing in your inner sky, and ask yourself, how can I respond from my best self? Lesson 4. Practice active compassion. Not from pity, not from a distance, but from the courage to look at another human being and sincerely ask yourself, what must this person be going through to act this way? Because behind almost all hostility lies an unresolved pain, an unhealed wound, a fear that was never named. If you only react to the external gesture, you miss the real story. The one who shouts is often asking for help. The one who criticizes excessively is likely criticizing themselves in silence. If you can see that, you can respond differently. Most people don't act out of malice, but out of unconsciousness, out of a burden they don't know how to handle. But you have the option not to join that pattern. You can interrupt the chain of harm. Understanding doesn't mean justifying. It means choosing how to respond without losing your center. Marcus Aurelius said that when someone acts harshly, we should remember they are struggling with their own ignorance. That doesn't excuse them, but it does explain them. And what is explained is disarmed. When you train yourself to see the pain behind the anger, you stop being a victim and start looking with understanding. Active compassion is not passivity. It is firmness with wisdom. Epictetus taught that no one can take your peace if you do not hand it to them. If you allow another's distress to become your own, you have been swept away. But if you can see their pain and decide not to join in, you have won. Imagine facing someone speaking to you with rage. You can react from your own pride, or you can look at them and think, this person is suffering. This reaction is not about me. It is their chaos trying to express itself. And if you don't absorb it, you remain whole. You can turn an argument into a space of understanding. Not every battle is worth your fight, but every gesture of active compassion you choose to cultivate transforms you, strengthens you, elevates you. Lesson 5. Deactivate your ego. Because that impulse to be right, to defend yourself against any criticism, is not strength. It's an invisible chain that feeds on conflict and validation. Most of the arguments you face are not born from a real injustice, but from a wounded pride. From the automatic impulse that tells you, don't let them, respond. But what do you gain from that? Epictetus summarized it clearly. If someone contradicts you, ask yourself if what you are defending is the truth, or just your image. Not every attack deserves a defense. What truly weakens you is the need to be right about everything. That obsession to prove you are not mistaken. It is there that your peace begins to deteriorate. The ego turns every disagreement into a battle because it believes that to lose an argument is to lose value. But your worth does not depend on winning debates. It depends on the clarity with which you choose your fights. There is a great difference between defending your values and defending your ego. The first requires courage. The second, only a need for recognition. The ego wants to be right, even if it must destroy harmony to do so. But wisdom chooses peace. It understands that silence often says more than any argument. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that what others think does not define you. Deactivating the ego is not surrender. It is liberation. It is recognizing that you don't need to impress everyone. The ego wants to prove itself, but you can simply live. You can prioritize your peace over an empty victory. You can choose not to enter certain conversations, not out of fear, but out of clarity. Lesson 6. Review your expectations. Many of your frustrations come not from what has happened, but from what you believed should have happened. You are not hurt so much by the action of another as by the distance between that action and what you expected. You believed they would understand, that they would act with more sensitivity, but they didn't, and now you deal with the disappointment of a story that didn't come true. But who said it had to be that way? Rigid expectations are invisible cages. Reality is not made to follow your mental scripts. People are not here to fulfill your assumptions. To believe they will always act as you would is to forget that they are not you. Marcus Aurelius warned against this. Do not expect figs in winter. In other words, do not be surprised when people are who they are. If you already know what someone is like, why are you surprised when they repeat their patterns? Frustration is often the consequence of refusing to see reality as it is. Reviewing your expectations is not conformity, it is lucidity. It is realizing that many of your emotional wounds are born in your own mind. This doesn't mean you don't deserve respect. It means you cannot build your well-being on the foundation of what others should be. Peace begins when you accept and train yourself to respond to things as they are. Accepting reality doesn't mean justifying the unjustifiable. It means you stop fighting with what already is. When you expect less, you are disappointed less. And that is not coldness. It is emotional protection. Lesson 7. Learn to let go instead of accumulate. Because every time you decide to hold on to what bothers you, what hurts you, you are filling your inner world with invisible burdens. The anger you don't express, the disappointment you don't process, it doesn't disappear. It accumulates. And it transfers to your body, your decisions, your relationships. You are not letting go, you are carrying. Accumulating grievances is a slow poison. You become a slave to what you did not say. Epictetus taught that we are not disturbed by events, but by the judgment we hold about them. And when that judgment is repeated in silence over and over, it becomes a chain. You tell yourself, this shouldn't have happened, and so you live trapped. The key is to let go, to accept that it happened, that it hurt, and that continuing to carry it only prolongs the damage. Letting go is not forgetting or justifying. It is understanding that you don't need to carry everything. Marcus Aurelius said that what does not help the present task should be discarded. Many of the emotions you hold on to do not help. They drain you. You hold on to anger thinking you are punishing the other person, but the only one being poisoned is you. When something new happens, you react with the weight of everything you've accumulated. You become disproportionate, irritable, not because the new thing is so serious, but because the old thing was never released. Lesson 8. Use silence as a response. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you have understood that not everything deserves a response. The urge to speak, to prove, often comes from the ego, not from wisdom. One who has true self-mastery does not need to react to every provocation. To be silent is not submission. Sometimes it is the highest expression of inner power, because silence can say, I will not engage in this conflict. My peace is worth more. Wise silence disarms more than 1,000 words. It breaks the cycle of confrontation and keeps you whole. Your value is not in winning arguments, but in preserving your center. Think of all the times you reacted and later regretted it. Now imagine if, instead of speaking, you had remained silent. How much peace would you have preserved? Silence creates space. Space to see clearly, for the emotion to calm, for you to choose from a place of reason. And in that space, true strength appears. Lesson 9. Cultivate peaceful thoughts. Everything begins with a thought. If you repeat thoughts of fear, you will live on alert. If you feed thoughts of resentment, your gaze will be tinted with suspicion. But if you decide to cultivate peaceful thoughts, calm will become your natural state. You cannot control what happens outside, but you can decide what story you tell yourself about it. The mind adapts to what it constantly thinks, and when you allow it to wander freely, it clings to the negative, complaint, criticism, judgment. That is when you react harshly to insignificant details. Peace is built from thought. If you decide to see with neutrality, to interpret events without emotional embellishment, you will begin to experience freedom. Just because something is uncomfortable doesn't mean it's bad. Just because someone contradicts you doesn't mean they're attacking you. Peaceful thinking is born when you abandon the need for everything to align with your desires and learn to see things as they are. Lesson 10. Don't take the world so seriously. Most of your problems are not born from the world itself, but from the weight with which you choose to carry them. The world doesn't conspire against you. It simply happens. Life is too short to spend it on the defensive. When you take the world too seriously, you lose perspective. You become rigid. But rigidity breaks. Lightness adapts. To be light is not to be indifferent. It is to know the difference between what truly matters and what does not. Laughter is a form of freedom. When you can laugh at what once hurt you, you have transcended that wound. When you can see chaos with a serene smile, you have conquered the fear. Lesson 11. Remember your higher purpose. When everything around you seems to stir, when external voices want to drag you into conflict, stop. Return to that deep reason why you decided to grow and live with awareness. Because if you don't remember your purpose, any distraction can become an enemy. But when you know who you are and where you are going, the rest of the world loses its power over you. Life is full of provocations, but true strength lies in asking yourself, is this worth it? If your purpose is to live with serenity, you cannot allow just anything to steal your energy. Your energy is not infinite. Every time you enter a meaningless conflict, you are diverting your strength from what truly matters. Your higher purpose is to grow, to live in peace, to contribute. At every provocation, ask yourself, does this move me closer to or further from who I want to be? And if the answer is no, then change course. Your serenity is your priority. Lesson 12. Make calmness your identity. Not as a fleeting state, but as a way of being in the world. Most people live by reacting, but what is natural is what brings you back to yourself. And true calm does not depend on what happens outside, but on what you have built inside. It is not about seeming calm, but about being it, living it. Calmness is not something you do when all is well. It is who you choose to be, even when everything is in disarray. It is a decision, a daily practice, an act of power. To conclude, I invite you to subscribe, activate notifications, and comment so that YouTube recognizes that these videos are useful for people like you. I sincerely appreciate your time and support. See you in our next adventure.